So now that I've entered in the basic information, I'm going to start entering my income. And if you do not have any income for the year of 2021, you would just simply press skip income. So I'm going to put, I want to be guided, just so that we can be guided. So here it's saying, do you have any W-2s to enter? I'm going to put yes, because I did receive a W-2 from my employer. So now I'm going to enter in my W-2. This is what the page looks like. You would enter in your employer's identification number, the employer name, all the basic information about your employer that's already provided on your W-2. And this information right here rolls over from what we had already entered in our basic information section. That's one of the first things that we did. And then down here is where it has all the information on the numbers, such as the wages, what taxes were withheld, and things like that. And be sure to note that on the boxes here may look different than the boxes on your W-2. Some of it is kind of like out of order, not out of order, but some things are towards the bottom of the W-2 instead of being up here.
And for W-2 information, Brooklyn's just typing in what each box says from the W-2 form, exactly how it's written. So they say key it as you see it. And just make sure some of the print is really tiny on a W-2. Just make sure to check that either if a box is blank, you leave it blank, or if there's some tiny print, you copy that in. And if you have more than one W-2 or more than one job that you worked as a part-time or full-time employee, even if it's just for 1 month, 1 day, a summer job or a holiday job, if you were an employee, you do have a W-2. So make sure that you get one from each employee. And if you actually need to go ahead and call a former employee or email your old boss or go swing by, and you can ask them to send you your W-2 by email or by mail, or you can go pick it up. But you do have to enter each W-2 from each different job that you've had. So Brooklyn, in 2021, did you have one W-2 job or did you have more than one job?
I had more than one job.
Okay, so you're going to enter a W-2 the same way for each job that you had.
Awesome. Another thing to note is that sometimes W-2s, a lot of them have different formats, different structures, and it's all over the place, kind of. Because on my W-2, box 8 is actually towards the bottom of my W-2. So just keeping that in mind. So this is asking if I received state or local tax refund for year 2020. I did. And the reason why it asked this is because those who itemize their deductions instead of taking the standard deduction are usually taxed on the refund that they receive. And I'm sure will ask me right now. Yeah. Did I itemize my deductions? No.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so here it's asking if I have any interest or dividend income. So if you have a bank account, like a savings account or a CD account, or some sort of account that generates interest, you should have received a 1099 interest form, and that lists the amount of interest. And then also if you have any stocks or anything like that and you received any dividends, you would receive this 1099 dividend. So if you have that information on hand, you're going to want to enter in here. I don't have any, so I'm going to put no. Did you receive a distribution or take out any money of a retirement account? No. Deferred retirement income? No. Social Security, benefits, railroad? No. So here it's asking if I have a 1099 miscellaneous, which is basically a form that you would receive if you receive some type of miscellaneous income, like a gift or some type of stipend or anything in that area. And I'm going to put no because I did not receive that. Did I receive a Form 1099 NEC? Yes. Okay, so here we're going to enter in our non-employee compensation. So a lot of the times if you are an Uber driver or you do DoorDash or anything in that area, this is where that information is going to go.
There's a lot of current and former FOSTEs who also work maybe as, as a consultant on some things. And so you'll get a 1099 NEC and you enter the information of that job from that form and how much income you received from that job. Now, when you do those jobs, you want to keep receipts for any expenses as well, because those can be written off as business expenses, anything you paid for that helped you to do that job. And we'll go over that next.
So basically, if you receive a 1099 NEC, this is going to be reported on a Schedule C business income, unless you're a farmer.
So to fill out this is the part where is commonly known as write-offs. You might not have a business name. It's actually just your name, so you don't have to fill in anything there. And an employer ID, that's just your social security number or your ITIN number if you don't have a formal business. Now, some people will have a formal business name and identifying number, but otherwise you just enter your personal information and continue on to the type of business. And in this section, you are a driver, so you can actually click on a list of business codes. There it is, ride sharing service. So you'll click on that. Sometimes it can be hard to find the right business code, but you can look it up here or you can Google it and you type that in for your Schedule C. It's important because some types of business types have different costs associated with them.
Sweet. And also up here, the employer ID, like you had mentioned, using your social security number, is saying to leave it blank if you are using your social security number. So I did leave it blank.
Great. Yeah, so each person who has a 1099 Schedule C or business income, that's been entered. But now what we have to do, since Brooklyn, you drove for Uber, you have other expenses to record that are general expenses related to your business, car or truck expenses related to the car that you use to drive for Uber, and then other potentially mileage. And so there's a couple different places to enter those. And why don't we start with your general expenses? So in this section, you'll see advertising. That could be like if you had business cards or printed flyers and put something up. Commission and fees, a lot of apps have fees to use them, either like a website fee or if you're selling something online, a transaction fee. Like I think OnlyFans, there's certain types of accounts, they have fees associated with each transaction. Some of this is like if you have employees. Most of the people in our program are not hiring employees, but are an employee or are contracted work themselves. So what you might have for Uber, I'm thinking, are some supplies, repairs and maintenance of your car, maybe taxes and licenses if you had to pay for your license or anything like that. You can enter the amounts of your fees in here. And if you scroll down a little bit, there's some other expenses on the page that are common. So office expense, utilities. Now, utilities for an Uber driver is probably the most common because you have to use your phone and it's plugged in and it shows you the map and your customers, right? And a lot of times you need internet as well. So at least if you're driving or using a ride sharing service, you had to use your phone and internet, and you want to add those up for each month you are working. And if you're using it for personal reasons as well, you kind of take the percentage of that cost that was used for business and and you enter that business percentage in. So you can go ahead and enter those costs into the page.
Okay, so as an Uber driver for repairs and maintenance, I got oil changes, I had to change my tires, I got to rotate them. So I do have receipts. So I did calculate how much I'd spent on all that, and it came out to be around $500. Okay. And then for utilities, I use my phone, obviously, to track my customers, pick them up, and all of that. And I also use it for personal purposes as well. And so basically, I took the amount of my cell phone bill and I kind of divided it between personal and business use. And a good way to kind of figure that out is if you do have like an iPhone, you could see your screen time and you could see how long you were in the Uber app. And if you wanted to calculate it that way. But the amount that it came out to be was around, I would say, $300 total for my bill, and then divided it by personal versus business.
So now that you entered all of your business expenses, that's a good thing. It reduces your taxable income from your 1099 contract job. The other thing you have to do is enter your car and truck expenses, including the mileage. So let's begin there. So here what you'll do is type in the vehicle that you drove, the date you started using that vehicle for the business. So if you've been driving for Uber for years, you would put back to, like, let's say 2018 and the date you started. But if you started in 2021, you just put the date that you started driving for that company and using your car for work. And then what's nice about the ride sharing jobs now, they've started to provide drivers with a report on their mileage. So they actually give you a document that says how many miles you drove while working for them. So you go ahead and enter the business miles. Now, if you don't have that, or if you, like, let's say you work on landscaping, or you were a babysitter and you would have to pick up the kid from school and drive them to soccer practice and back home, or anything like that, you'd have to keep track of your own miles and enter them here. And you don't count commuting towards your expenses, but you can enter that in. And then check if you're using it for personal use as well. And you can click on continue. So that's really, I don't know, Brooklyn, if there's any other expenses, but certain jobs you might have depreciation. So like if you got a car or a laptop or a certain type of expensive investment for that job, and depreciation means that it has a value when you buy it and it starts to lose value or use over time, and it's kind of like wear and tear. So if you did want to add in depreciation on an item, you could click on that and begin and enter the information on, let's say, your car or a laptop or something that you're using for your job, and you can enter it in there if you want to. But other than that, you can go ahead and press continue.
Okay, did you own a business or perform contract labor for an employer? No. Stocks, bonds, and other personal property. This is where you'd enter in your information if you receive a 1099-B that has all your stocks and bonds and capital gains and losses if you have that. Or even, I believe, cryptocurrency would also be reported on in this area too. And I'm going to press no. Okay, so this is the area from the workshop where we had to press yes in order to enter in the 1099 or 1098T for qualified education. Otherwise, if you press no, it kind of like skipped over that area for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, so there's other income. If you receive scholarships from school and it's worth more than what you paid in tuition, you want to click yes here and then press continue. And for most things, you're going to say no. And when it gets to the education program, you'll say yes. So here's where other compensation, this is actually scholarships and grants. So you're going to want to click yes and continue if you have a 1098-T form from your school and box 5 is larger than box 1 amount. So you'd have to look at your form. And what you do is you click begin on scholarships and grants. And so Brooklyn, tell me, you have your 1098-T from your school, from your college in front of you.
Yes.
And how much was in box 5 for scholarships?
$30,000.
Okay, and then how much was in box 1 for expenses?
$14,000.
14,000. And then how much did you pay on books, supplies, and other items out of pocket?
I would say after looking at the SCSU website, one of the websites, you could track how much were your books and supplies, and also if you purchased a laptop. I would say the total came out to be $1,000.
Okay, so what you have to do here is actually take your full amount of your scholarships, which was 30,000, minus 14,000 of tuition, minus 1,000. So it's really 30,000 minus 15,000. And you're going to put the difference in this box. So $15,000 was available to you for your living expenses. And that's the taxable portion. So you see how you don't put it in exactly what's in the box on scholarships. You have to do a simple calculation here and reduce it. And you want to make sure to do that subtraction, because if you put in $30,000, they think you actually received $30,000 in your bank account, when really half of that went to pay the school and you never got any of that money directly. It was for your schooling. So go ahead and click continue. And once you do that, you're going to see on the right side that the federal amount has changed a little bit. But now it's asking you if this was part of a qualified education program. Okay, so we'll just say no and continue.
This is if you lived abroad in a different country. No.
Awesome. Well, great job entering all of your income in your tax return. So we covered the W-2 as part-time or full-time employee, a 1099 as an Uber driver, and the Schedule C, the business expenses related to having a car, a phone, internet, and repairs on the vehicle and mileage on the vehicle that you use for that job, as well as the 1098-T. What we didn't do yet was the 1099-G.
So if you still have an income form that didn't come up while you were going through the guided process, you could always come back and press the income tab on your left-hand side, and it's going to give you a list of all the potential income items. I have a 1099-G from unemployment. When COVID happened, I became unemployed. So I do have a 1099-G. So I'm going to press begin. And I'm simply just going to enter in that information. I'm going to add or edit.
Yeah, so if you see the screen here, what it's going to ask you to enter is all of the information about the sort of the EDD payment, who it came from, how much you were paid, if you had federal tax withheld, how much was taken out of your unemployment check. And you just fill it out just like how you would a W-2. And you just key it as you see it with the information from the actual paper.